I already said because people should protect those who are weaker than them. Once again, claim that I'm stipulating. If you disagree and don't think those who are stronger should use that to protect those who are less strong, then I guess this doesn't follow. But I think that's a pretty strong intuition that most people hold.
Let's make sure that you hold this intuition then, okay?
Yeah.
So would you consider like a 13-year-old boy to be a child?
Yes.
Okay. Do you agree with me that 13-year-old boys can be about as strong as an average woman?
Sure. I would depend. I'm not sure.
So should 13-year-old boys give up their seats on the lifeboat for women?
Maybe it's a case by case dependent basis. I think you should try to save women and children because
should the 13-year-old give up their spot in the lifeboat for a 70-year-old woman?
No, because I think there's a long. Well,
if they have the advantage of more strength and they are always conceding that strength, it's never to their own service, but always to the service of others. Is that truly an advantage? It's a benefit to every other person other than the man. Because whenever he uses that strength to benefit himself, he is called not virtuous. I'm not saying men shouldn't protect the weak around them, but they should also not be shamed for using their own strength for their own benefit, as long as it is good. So for people who don't know what's going on here, for context, this guy, misandrist, he's a man that's also a misandrist. So every single thing that a man can benefit, or every single thing that will more or less make the male and female dynamic fair, he always goes towards the side that is disadvantageous towards the man, no matter the case. In the case where men and women are supposed to protect themselves, he will rather that the man doesn't protect himself to the detriment of his own life for the glory of the woman. And in the case of child support and different kind of things, he wants everything to go towards the woman. In the case of unaliving your children, he wants the man not to have a say, but the woman should always have the say every single time. So if I want to classify him, I will say he's a woman worshipper, not a fair human being. And this is one of the reasons I do not trust male feminists. They are very, very slimy. They will never be objective because they are trying to get the glory, or rather the praise, of the feminist wing of the society every single time. So in the case where order needs to be called and men need to take charge, this guy will sabotage everything. Even if the cause is noble, he will sabotage everything.
What?
wait, hold on. Andrew,
come on, bro.
Dude.
This is fucking crazy.
No, there were Andrew.
Okay.
Are you not agreeing with me? Who do you think would survive longer in the icy water?
I think you're talking.
It's irrelevant. Cold water. Maybe like 1 second. Sorry, maybe 1 minute max. If the guy has thick fat in his body, there's no advantage here, strength-wise.
Talking about seconds or minutes, perhaps.
Okay. And if there were rescue boats going by?
There's not rescue boats. There wasn't rescue boats going by,
well, I'm
bro.
glad we're not in that situation anymore.
Yeah, but
so
I'm asking you about that situation. You said they should give up their spots on the Titanic. The women get the lifeboats because the men are stronger, even though their lives are both equally valuable. Why?
So for people who don't understand, Andrew here is not saying they shouldn't. He's just challenging the fact that it has to be a constant. There is no nuance around it. There is nothing. It's just like women are in trouble, all men you must die. That's what he's challenging. He's not saying, oh, my own women are in trouble, I have to lay my life down to help them. He's saying in the general sense, why shouldn't those men protect themselves? Let's say you are in the Titanic and every woman there is a prostitute and the ship is going down and you know their life is not, number one, useful to you and also not beneficial to society. Should you enter into the water and let them survive? Why? Is it an ought, or you have to weigh your own option? Oh, I've saved my family. Oh, there's one more seat. Should I enter the boat or let this other prostitute enter because I am a man and only women must survive? Me, I will argue you have to weigh your options. And if you have wife, you have children, and there is one spot for you to survive, I would say enter that thing and save your family. Enter that boat and be there for your family. There's no reason why you put another person there. I'm not saying in that situation you are doing the right or the wrong thing, but you have the option. You should have the option. But this guy here is saying you shouldn't have the option at all. It's a constant. Even if the woman is like a serial killer, you ought to let that woman to enter the boat. I'm taking it to the extreme, but that's what his hypothesis is going towards. And that's what Andrew is trying to critique. Is it always the case?
I think that some men should do that. Absolutely. Because
Why?
Why? Because you should want to protect those who are weaker than
Why
you.
though? Why though? If it's just a matter of you saying because you're stronger, then you switch. What you're doing is switching your case use here, which is fucking. It's equivocation. It's pissing me off because it's not even genuine. You're making the equivocal case that, wait a second, right? Men generally are stronger than women, so therefore should protect them because generally stronger people should protect weaker people.
Yes.
Okay, that follows in that aspect. You're a bit stronger, right?
Yes.
You have some sort of like duty or obligation to protect those weaker than you. But when you're in a situation like the fucking Titanic, right, where your strength differential doesn't fucking matter at all, right? You still prescribe that the women get the lifeboats, bro. And I need you to tell me why.
Why should they get the lifeboats? I think I am then expressing an intuition based on that case.
Again, Andrew is not saying they shouldn't. He's just trying to get the guy's main reason why. This guy own is like by default, it's just, men must suffer. That's his own reason. Men must suffer. Because what Andrew is trying to get people to see is this guy does not think that men are of equal value to women. And that's where he's trying to push towards. This guy doesn't see men equal to women. He sees men to be lower or lesser than women. And he tries to guise it in the fact of, stronger should protect the weaker, blah, blah, blah. Let's just continue.
That is based on the fact that men are generally stronger than women. So maybe in
How
this
is
case,
that helpful?
Hold on. Maybe in this case, then they shouldn't, because this case doesn't involve strength or anything like that. So in this case, then maybe not. In the Titanic, in that case, then yeah, maybe not.
Okay, so you're retracting that?
Yeah, I'll
Okay, so you're going to retract that.
Whenever the president just retracts, he has no foundation for the things he believes in, the odd claims he claims. When you say men ought to do something, you would think that this person has a good reason for it, but he doesn't have any good reason.
For women, I'll retract the claim for they should give it up for women. Maybe not children though, because children would have a longer lifespan ahead of them. And men and women's lives, I would agree, are roughly equal. But you can argue that children's lives, many people would consider them more valuable because they have a longer life to live.
Okay, so then men don't have an obligation to sacrifice their lives for women.
No.
Okay.
I don't think necessarily.
Got it. They don't have.
I don't think. No, I don't think each individual man. I think society has an obligation to protect those who are weaker, but I think that no individual person should be compelled to risk or like.
Well, I didn't say compelled.
Life.
I asked about duty. That wouldn't be
Men.
like a foreign compellence.
No, I don't think men have that duty. No.
They don't have that duty.
Men in general, no. Those who are stronger, not to die for other people necessarily.
So you don't think that there's a social obligation inside of society which shames men if they don't protect women who are physically weaker than them?
I think there is, but the thing is also I think a man is much less likely to die than a woman in those situations.
Yeah, so what?
So then it's much
But he's
less likely.
much more likely to be shamed for not interjecting himself in the situation, which would mean that he actually would be more likely to die than
And I
the
think
women.
it's because he's stronger.
Yeah, but that actually would increase his risk of death over women.
All right, Andrew.
And the average man would increase the risk of death if they're interjecting more than women. Yeah.
Okay. Sure. What's your point?
Is that correct?
Yes. What's your point?
Okay, so then you're assisting with a bias against men.
No.
With the social shame of men. Do you think that men, because they're the stronger sex, should interject on the behalf of people who are weaker than them?
If they are stronger.
If they're strong, and on average they're going to be.
Yes.
Then what you're doing is interjecting them into significant amounts of danger over the weaker sex.
It's not on the basis that they're men. It's on the basis that they're stronger.
Yes,
So
but
it
the
would
bias.
This same guy, if you point out things where women are stronger, stronger doesn't always mean strength. It can also mean like how much work or how powerful are you in a particular area. Take for instance, childbirth. Women in that case are stronger than men because they are the ones that engineer the child. They are the ones that grow the children. Without women, we are all dead. There is nothing we can do. So in the case where there is a dwindling population and you are about to die off, and the normal propaganda is women go for career, go for career, go for career. This same guy won't say women have the duty, in this case where they are stronger, they don't have the duty to breed the next generation. So his line of thinking is not exactly fair because he knows that, in this physical strength aspect, men will always be the ones that will be there. It's okay to use that metric and say, stronger people should take care of weaker people. But if it's anything other than physical strength and he knows it's going to affect women, he will retract that standard because that standard is actually arbitrary. It's not objective.
If you're enjoying this video, please leave me a like
Share the video if you are enjoying it so far, and subscribe. We need your support. It's small for you, but it's a huge thing for us. Just a button away. Click it.
Bias selection still going to apply to men.
Fine, so it would apply. So are you endorsing disparate impact theory here? I'm just really confused.
What is disparate impact theory?
The idea that if something overwhelmingly affects a group, then therefore it ought to be considered, like, I guess, prejudice or harm against that group. So, for example, if a policy was passed and it overwhelmingly disproportionately affected a racial minority or any minority, regardless of the intent of the bill.
No, I wouldn't endorse that, but what I will say is that...
Well, this is the type of disparate impact.
Not. Here's why. Here's the distinction, right? Do you agree with me that people can hide their true intentions towards a thing, right, by kind of equivocating based on their intention? So, for instance, if I said, look, okay, this isn't a bias against midgets, but I just think that people who are 3 feet and below shouldn't work in Hollywood, right? Okay. I'm not biased against midgets, though. Right, I'm universally applying that standard to all people, but who does it disproportionately affect the most?
Yeah, it does affect them. But
now, hang on. If hang on. Now, if I held a bias, a secret bias against midgets, I really fucking hated them. Right? Would that be a really good way for me to enact my will, my hatred towards those midgets, by making that universal claim that all people 3 feet and
Andrew, what would the benefit be of banning those people from working in Hollywood?
I'm just saying things like they can't get hurt as easy.
Can't get hurt.
Yeah,
as
people
easily?
who are 5 feet and or above, they don't get hurt as easy as people who are 3 feet and below. Then especially when you're on Hollywood sets and things like that.
If you were making then standards that were, I mean, we have this. Do you think it's prejudicial?
It would universally apply to all people.
Then do you think it's prejudicial that we hate children because we have height?
I'm saying,
because we have height limitations on rides at roller coasters?
So hang on.
Is that prejudice against them?
I'm not making the claim that you can't make even universalized prescriptions based on safety. I'm asking a specific and narrow question, which is that if I hated midgets, would it not then follow that if I was making prescriptions, right, that seemingly on their face were a bit absurd, seemingly a bit on their face absurd, right, but did universalize them by saying it's for all people, but the inaction of that really was going to disproportionately affect midgets, that it might stand to reason that I had some bias against midgets? Do you think hang on, I'm just saying this is conditional. Let me look at the camera too. It's just as conditional. But don't you think that if I passed legislation which was disproportionately affect only one group, right? But I was doing it as a universal claim for all, right? That people might think my motivations were to try to like disproportionately affect that group. Don't you think that follows?
It could be, but it's not necessarily.
I don't. This thing that Andrew just said is actually very common in everybody. Because even sometimes people who do these things don't really know, or rather they deceive themselves to think that, oh, this my standard is universal. But it is actually clear in the document. I'm not talking about some things that are very, very hard to point and say, okay, this standard definitely disproportionately affects a particular group. I'm not talking of those ones. I'm saying this one is clear cut. I don't want people with black skin to enter here because we need the light to be everywhere to be light or something. As in something like that. It's a stupid example, I understand. But it's clear cut. It's not like, oh, I want everybody who works here to come early. Oh, but you know that, oh, the black community, we have this thing called African time. We can come like 15 minutes late. Then this law is against black people. No, that's not what I am saying. Not that one. That one is not clear. That one, you'll be like, oh, that is systemic racism. No, that's not what I am saying. I'm saying this one is clear cut. Like the example Andrew gave. I don't want people who are below a particular height to work in this sector because of, oh, there might be harm happening here. You've intentionally discriminated against those people. Andrew is saying it's not necessarily bad, but is there a chance that there is a bias and somebody in that particular office might want these people to be affected? And it is possible, and that person that is doing it might also feel like I'm doing something noble, but there is a chance that may be this clear-cut one. I'm not talking about the ones that so nuanced that it's hard to point and say, oh, because of there is drugs here, they are not sending police here. No. Universal standard that applies to everybody equally, as long as they can make adjustments not standards that affect you because of your biological makeup. And this is what Andrew is trying to tackle concerning what this guy is saying.
I already said this. I think those who are stronger, regardless of sex, should protect those who are weaker.
Yeah, but again, here's the problem. When you claim that I'm a feminist, right, which you have, and that you're here to defend feminism, isn't it interesting that part of this, kind of like a prescription for society based around feminism is that it just so happens that men need to, of course, you don't mean men, you just mean stronger people, but men have to interject and put themselves in harm's way more than women do, and you happen to be a feminist. You don't think people are going to put two and two together and think that, well, perhaps you have a bit of bias towards men?
Bias towards men or biased against men?
Yeah.
No, I don't necessarily think that follows at all.
Okay, why not?
Because I don't think that it means that you hate someone if you think that because
I didn't say hate. Did I say hate or bias?
Fine, Andrew. I don't think that you're biased.
You can fine Andrew.
I don't think that you're biased against someone or a group of people if you think because they have advantages, they should use them to the less well off.
Okay.
Do you think it would do you think that like taxing the wealthy is like a bias against rich people?
I think it can be.
So, but do you think it necessarily is?
I never said anything about any of this being necessarily the case.
Okay, so
hang on.
It's not necessarily fine. Okay,
yeah,
I agree.
What I said was that people can hide the motivation, and I do think, by the way, using this example of the wealthy, that oftentimes progressives do fucking hate the wealthy and blame them for problems inside society because they think they're selfish and want to punish them. They want to punish them.
Some people might do that. I'm not denying that they're going to do that.
And so the thing is like,
fine. Then I am in full agreement with you that wanting to punish people is a bad reason for doing that.
So what reward?
Yeah, this one is also very clear. I remember when I used to hate rich people. I hated rich people because I always felt like every amount of money they got, they must have swindled somebody, taken advantage of somebody, not really considering that, oh, this person might actually be creating value. When you create value, it's not necessarily you destroying something. It's like it wasn't there before, you created it. And whenever people say tax the rich, I'm like, yes, they should pay more. They'll be like, oh, the rich people are taking advantage of us. Is that the case? Sometimes it may be, but it's not always the case. So whenever I am saying, oh, we need to tax the rich more, the question is, what am I doing there? Am I encouraging them to be rich or am I punishing them? And the answer is I'm punishing them, because that law will never affect me if I plan to stay below rich. That's why you see some of these politicians like Bernie Sanders. He said, tax the rich, tax the rich. Then he became a millionaire. He said, tax the billionaires, tax the billionaires. So it's never them. They when he gets to a billionaire, he will say, tax the trillionaires. I don't think anybody is a trillionaire except like all these warlords or monarchs. I'm not exactly sure. But what you see, it's just hatred, and you put laws that you say, oh, it is standard, it is wonderful, it's for everybody. But we know who you are against. And that's what this guy is doing. Let's continue.
Okay, so for this duty that is going to disproportionately affect men, but isn't meant to target men, just people who are stronger, what do they get out of this?
What do they get out? I don't think that duties necessitate rewards. For example, I don't think we should reward people for like using their strength to benefit others. I just think that's something that you ought to do. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, you shouldn't beat your wife. It's like,
a benefit is not a reward, Abi. Why do you do things? Is it not because it has some form of good outcomes? So what are the good outcomes of submitting your strength? If submitting my strength leads to something bad, I will not submit my strength. If submitting my strength will mean that, oh, some guy outside will come and harm my family, I am not submitting that strength, because there's no benefit in submitting my strength. I rather have my strength guarantee that my family is safe than to say, oh, I will do that because it is the right thing to do. No, right thing to do that harms my family is wrong. Right thing to do that brings danger to my community is wrong. It's very wrong. So I don't know where you're getting your standard from.
It's like, I didn't beat my wife today, you should give me more money. It's like, of course not.
Isn't a draft duty which necessarily benefits others based on strength?
I don't agree with the draft because it's compulsory.
Yeah, so is this duty, though. It's compulsory, right? people ought.
So for people who don't know what the draft is, whenever your country is at war with another country or whatever the case, your government can say, you are becoming a soldier, you can become, as in every man,
do what you said.
Every man in that society has no option. Government can select you and say, you are going to fight the war. So that's a draft.
Isn't that a compulsion?
Sure. I'm not, 100%. I'm not, but that's a legal compulsion. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be general societal pushes towards certain things, but I don't think it should be legally compelled in which you go to jail or are killed for not joining the draft. But yeah, absolutely. I think that if society is on the brink of collapse or something like that, those who are stronger should step up and try to defend that.
And what would the equal female duty to this be?
There's not.
You see, he's quick to tell you all the duties that men can do. Let's see. Okay, he has already said a part of it. Let's see.
Not an equal female duty, and I've had this before. You had to
the equal female duty to this be?
There's not an equal female duty, and I've had this before. You had the same conversation. There is not a equal female. There's not an equal duty for those who would kindness towards others, being respectful towards others.
Those aren't duties.
Wanting to lift people up. I think it is.
No, it's not a duty to be kind and respectful. We've been disrespectful this whole time. Where's your kindness and duty?
Wait, I think people should be... Okay, Andrew, I'm sorry that I wasn't specific enough in saying that you should be generally kind. I don't think that
generally.
someone... Hold on, Andrew, fine.
Come on, dude.
Wait. When I say people have a duty to be kind, what you interpreted that as incorrectly is you have to be kind all the time, which is not true.
Okay, so you just generally think people should be kind.
I think being kind in general is a good thing.
Yeah, but the
you should be a
strong
kind
ought,
person.
the strong ought to protect the weak.
Sure.
Ought.
Are they always protecting the weak?
No, but you think they always should.
If that situation arises. Yes.
So that would be always.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a monolithic statement for an ought, but it's interesting how you move between the monolithic situation of your ought when it comes to that. But with the second we get to women, suddenly they don't have any of those monolithic oughts. That's very strange. What monolithic ought do women have?
They don't, because they're not stronger than men. What situation?
What other monolithic? Well, there's one thing they can do men can't.
Sure,
what is
reproduce, Andrew. I
know that. How come that's not a monolithic ought?
Because they should not have to have children.
Why?
Because we can have a society where people voluntarily have children without forcing them to do so. We can increase incentives.
Have a society where men don't voluntarily assist anybody with their strength. What do you mean?
We can have a society where no one voluntarily does that, but I think we can always use incentive structures to get to that.
Yeah, but you said that they ought. If you agree with me that there can be a society in which men are not interceding on behalf of the weaker sex, in this case women or children, right? Why ought they do that?
Why ought they do what?
Why ought they do that?
Protect women and children?
If women have no compellence for duties for anything, they ought to do.
So hold on. I don't think that you should protect other people because you think you're owed something in return. That's the biggest problem here. I don't think men should protect women because oh my God, I saved you. Now you have to bear my children. I
hate when people talk like this because this is very, very, very disingenuous. What he's trying to do now is to paint Andrew in a bad light of what Andrew never said. God forbid I have this kind of people in my life. God forbid.
I don't think that's how these things work.
Nobody made that conflation that because you saved a woman, they now have to have your children.
Well, you're saying there's a duty.
What I'm saying,
I saved your life, therefore women in general have an obligation to have children.
On the monolithic ought, I'm even willing to be super charitable here and say that you didn't mean every single time, but in most cases, it is the case that men are stronger than women, and so it should intercede on their behalf, right?
Sure.
Right? That would be pretty charitable of me to say, right?
Largely.
Okay, so then if it's the case that women are the only ones who can have children, right? I want you to grant me the same charitability and say, you know what? I'm not saying that all of them ought to have children, okay? But we should make a prescription that they should be moving towards the idea of having children, that's really good for society prescriptively, and that generally speaking, they have a duty to do it.
I think it's a good thing when people have children, including
So generally
women.
speaking, women have a duty to have children.
I think that society has an obligation to...
The sad part is he knew where Andrew is pointing to, but he went to the worst case. Never trust anybody that will take your hypothetical, your critique to the highest or to the most extreme level when you've not made that statement. If you know somebody in your life that does this, run from them. Never tell them your secret. They will use it against you. They will destroy you. That person does not like you at all.
To keep its population growing.
So generally speaking, do women have a duty to have children?
Yeah, men and women.
Okay, great. So then women, generally at least, have a duty to have kids.
I think that individual women are not subject to this because...
Where did he say individual women? I don't tire. See, people like this, if you have them in your life, just stay away from them. They will try their best to misrepresent you and get you to say what you didn't say. And even when people try to clarify that, oh, he didn't say that though, you'll be like, you still keep holding him to a standard that he never held. Even look at Andrew's face here. Andrew is just like, which kind of human being be this? Waiting, am I talking to a wall? Because his whole goal is to make Andrew look bad. Not about the argument, nothing. This guy is just something else. But if you guys want to see the full debate, it's on the whatever channel. I like when Andrew comes on, he critiques some things. And sometimes, if you can clip Andrew, he will seem as if he's supporting all these evil things. But Andrew likes to do a lot of critique. He will critique your stuff so that he will check whether the standard that you are using is actually true or is very flimsy. And this guy did something bad. He made Andrew look bad. I watched the clip, and then I also remember I watched the full video, and I was like, nope, that's not what Andrew said. This guy is a weasel, and you'll be shocked how many people in your life are like this, especially the ones that call themselves male feminists. Run from them, like your life depends on it. I hope this video blesses you guys. I hope to see you guys and gals on the next one. Bye bye.